If you've ever told yourself things like, my English is so bad, or my accent is terrible, compared to who? Today I wanted to talk about how dangerous it is to compare our own level of fluency in English to other people's, and how you could save yourself from a ton of wasted energy by focusing on the only thing you can control: your own fluency. Some people, some marketing messaging keep telling you that the only way for you to be successful in speaking English is if you speak like a native speaker. Or in school we used to be made to feel like the only way we can speak English is if we speak it perfectly. But are you sure native speakers always communicate effectively and they can speak perfectly? And can anyone ever speak any language perfectly? Comparing ourselves to other people has been around for a long time. I mean, we live in societies where we are constantly exposed to other people, so we can see how they're living their lives. But I think this has especially gone wild since social media kicked off. We're constantly exposed to bilinguals, multilinguals confidently using English on camera, having amazing pronunciation and communicating effectively. And very often we forget to recognize that what we are looking at is just the tip of that iceberg, under which there's very often years of smart work, consistency, focus, and relying on support systems. Way too many times I've been told how lucky I was because I'm so good at learning languages. And whenever I hear this, I've got to be honest with you, I always feel like people are invalidating my own experience, all the struggles that I've gone through, the difficulties I had to face, and the efforts I made. So I can neutralize my pronunciation as much as I could, supercharge my listening skills so I feel way more confident when I walk into a conversation, and of course to learn to communicate effectively with anyone around the world. And if you want to hear more about my own struggles, even at like really high levels of fluency, make sure you check out these two videos that I've made earlier and find solutions to some of the problems you might be facing as well. And if you really think about this, and this is what the majority of this video is going to be about, how can you compare yourself, your 24/7, to someone who you have never seen before, whose backstory you've never heard, whose mind you can't read, and whose struggles you've never seen? And when it comes to comparison, why are we always comparing ourselves up and never look at people who are doing worse than us? Why do we never say, oh, I'm so much better than this person or that person in the group that I'm speaking in? Hey English learner, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Chubby. I'm an English fluency, learning and language anxiety coach, mainly focusing on helping ambitious professional adults improving their lives, improving their careers. And this is a channel for serious English learners who want to learn how to make vocabulary more memorable and how to speak English more freely, confidently and comfortably, with the help of improving their listening and their spoken communication skills. So if these are topics that you'd like to find out more about and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get all my updates on anything including listening, vocabulary, and speaking. This whole world, the entire society, has been designed to distract ourselves from the only thing we have true control over: ourselves. Control is a huge issue, and I think a lot of struggling English students don't seem to be confident in a conversation because they're trying so hard to control a conversation, what's going on in a conversation, which is something I'm definitely going to address in a future video. But if we really look at it, the only thing we have true 100% control over is what we think, how we react to what happens to us, and what actions we take. And a big part of this last one is learning how not to compare ourselves to other people all the time. I'm guilty of this too, as an English learner as well as a content creator. I mean, I've been on YouTube in the last 2 years. I've posted, this is my 76th video that I've ever posted, and looking at other English coaches or other channels, I can clearly see how most of them, at least the ones that I look at, are going viral, or they're just gaining some more traction because they get more comments, more views, more support on their channel. So most of the time when I look at subscriber counts or follower counts, I always need to remind myself how I'm different. I focus on a different kind of English learner, and I also teach in a different way. So having different numbers of followers is perfectly fine. And something really interesting happened last October. Even if I've been communicating in English effectively, speaking English for quite a while now confidently, when I joined a coaching program full of mostly people from English-speaking countries like the UK, the US, Canada, or Australia, and I was asked to go live in our Facebook group talking about my own experience, what I'm looking to improve in that coaching program, I felt exactly the same butterflies that now I help people from all over the world deal with better. I actually had to stop the live 2 times before the 3rd time I hit live, and I said, I'm not going to delete this, however it will turn out, because I felt so embarrassed about being one of the few non-native speakers in that group. And all I could think about was how many times I was going to hesitate, trip up, or make mistakes that they might find really hard to understand. And I'm a proficient English communicator who's been using English as his dominant language. I don't even use my native language most of the time for over a decade. Whenever I catch myself comparing my skills to other people's skills, whether it's English, business, or anything else, I always tell myself, there's no one else like me. I have my own stories, my own struggles, my own victories, my own strengths and weaknesses, and I don't need to be like everybody else, so I can't compare myself to others. And the same goes for you. You have your own path on this journey called learning to speak English. And remember this, you're always doing your best to figure out things about your English fluency, how exactly to do things so you can develop your fluency, what exactly to do to speak confidently, and of course how to make time for all of this in your busy schedule. And these attributes, along with everything else about you, are all unique to you. And the more energy you actually channel into figuring out these things that I talked about, instead of comparing yourself with other people, the faster you'll be able to build your fluency and gain confidence along the way. And this video is going to help you if you need some guidance on what exactly we need to figure out to make sure you don't waste your time studying English ineffectively and focus on doing things that actually help you communicate better. Think of learning to speak English fluently like climbing to the top of this mountain, let's call it Mount Fluency, where everyone else who wants to speak English fluently is heading to. Will looking sideways, looking at where other people are on that mountain, help you get closer to the top? Will being jealous of others who are ahead of you get you closer to the top? Will sitting down or turning back, giving up because all you see is other people going up faster than you, help you get closer to the top? And do you ever look back and see how many people are behind you and how much you've already achieved about your English fluency? And the truth is, you may never figure out how much better you're doing than other people, because most people are not comfortable enough to talk about their struggles, their difficulties about learning, and everyone is really good at pretending that they have it all figured out. Well, after 16 years of working with ambitious professional adults, I can tell you, no one, including me, has ever had it all figured out. Besides, comparing yourself to other people is like comparing a strawberry to a grape, a dragon fruit, and a bunch of other fruits. Based on what? Besides the fact that they are all fruits. It's often really hard to see our own progress over the months and years of learning English, because most of us have been trained to focus on looking at the results, but when it comes to a process like learning a language, especially at the intermediate and upper intermediate level where we have that plateau where almost no change seems to be happening for months sometimes, it's easy for us to give up. But I always say, 2 of the most important skills you can ever master about learning English or about life is learning how to start even if you're not ready, and learning how to keep going whenever you feel like giving up. Standing up, getting back on the horse, and just continuing to do, maybe on different terms. When life gets harder or English gets harder as they face new challenges over their English learning journey, I often see a lot of struggling English students give up way too early just because they don't see the results all the time, when sometimes the progress is still going on and happening under the surface, but results might not show, and that's totally fine. Which is why one thing we always do with my students, especially those students who are in my coaching program, is to recognize our progress, to make sure we look back every now and then, every month, every week, and see how much we've actually done, so we can appreciate how much progress we've already made. Because those critical moments of celebrating your own wins, of showing up, of trying your best, of going out of your ways to improve your English, will be the key moments you will need to remember. In those moments when you feel like giving up. Learning a language is never about the results. It's mostly going to be about the progress we've made, and even small progress. Again, we should never compare our own progress to other people's. We have our own lives. So the only person you should be comparing yourself to is a month ago you, or what your English was like a year or 2 years or 5 years ago. This is partly why my students in my community regularly record themselves speaking. It's not just going to help them gain confidence while recording themselves in the comfort of their own home without other people looking at them, and help them get a lot of supportive feedback on what they need to improve about their communication skills, but it will also be a testimony of all the progress they've made. They can track their progress, and whenever life gets hard and they feel like giving up, they could just look at those recordings and remind themselves how they've actually put in the effort and see how much progress they've made. People simply have the level of fluency, speak with the variety of grammar and vocabulary they communicate with, and can have confident conversations with other people because of the efforts they've put in over the years, most of which is going to be invisible to us. And even though we spent years and years being compared to our classmates in school, and we live in societies that constantly push us and tell us that we are supposed to be ahead of other people, or that there's a certain type of person who is successful when they have a house, when they have children, when they're married, when they've traveled to 50, I don't know how many countries, and other people aren't successful because they haven't achieved these milestones. The truth is, we are all unique, with our weaknesses and strengths, our past experiences, the things we like and dislike, the struggles we're going through, and the way we look at those struggles, our mindset. How does it make sense to compare ourselves to any other person on this planet? And here's again how the way we look at the world, at other people, matters so much when it comes to improving our fluency and gain confidence in speaking English, which is something I've recently talked about in another video. Because struggling English students always look at other people with jealousy, thinking that they must be talented, they must just be so lucky, and they have all the time in the world, and that's why they speak English so fluently and confidently. Whereas successful English communicators understand that the reason those people speak English so fluently and so effectively is because of consistently taking action on doing the right things to improve their fluency. Instead of feeling jealous, they take inspiration from those people who've achieved what they also want, understanding that if it was possible for them, it's absolutely possible for them to achieve exactly the same or even higher levels of fluency. The next time you find yourself comparing your English to other people's English, it's perfectly normal, we all do this, but you're only allowed to do that for 5 seconds. And after that, remind yourself that you have your own path to walk through, your own beautiful journey, discovering more about this amazing language you get to speak with other people, with all of its ups and downs that I've recently talked about in a previous video. And that the only person you should be comparing yourself to is you a month ago, 6 months ago, or a year ago. And tell me, how often do you find yourself comparing yourself with other people, or how often do you feel intimidated when you need to speak in a group of people where most people seem to have higher levels of fluency than yours? And are you going to use some of the ideas you've heard in this video to shift your way of thinking? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. You know how much I love reading about what you think about these. After all, this is social media for a reason. And also, if there's any other topic you'd like me to talk more about, whether it's about listening, confidence, speaking, fluency, vocabulary, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll be sure I consider making a video about it.